We are happy to be doing this. We've done it for many, many years, usually live, and we do a fun top 10 list and this and that, but this is going to be a much lower key meeting, and I know Kayla said they were going to put this up on social media, so if other people want to tune in and get a few tax tips, then that'll work. So you're probably familiar with Pattillo, Brown & Hill. We are a regional tax and accounting firm. Headquartered in Waco, but we have an office in Temple with 4 CPAs here and some support staff. So we do the full range of tax and accounting services. We even do out of our Waco office audits and employee benefits. So we have a lot of resources for our clients here in Temple to access. And then we here in our Temple office do business services, payroll, a lot of tax work, tax planning, projections, that type of thing. So any kind of tax, business, accounting work, we can do that here in our office in Temple. The partner in charge of our office is Melanie McCarthy. She has been engaged in an IRS conference today, so she was not able to come, but she usually participates in this, but feel free to reach out to her. She's the manager of our office here. So I thought I would just give you just a few quick tax updates, kind of what's going on right now, tax-wise that's new. One thing is the stimulus check that a lot of people received. People may not realize that that is going to have to be reported on your tax return. It's not taxable income, but in case people did not receive it, the IRS is going to then send it to you in April. So they want everybody to say, here's how much I got. That way they can figure out if you need to be getting more. Now, if you got too much, they're not worrying about that. They're saying, that's fine. What's done is done. But a lot of people got a partial based on their income. They got some of the money, but not all of it. And if their income turns out to be lower, they might be entitled to more. So hopefully most people will remember or be able to come up with the amount they did receive. So you're going to have to find that out, that number, because it will have to be reported on your tax return. And hopefully a few people will get some extra money out of that if they didn't get everything they were entitled to the first time. The other thing with respect to the stimulus is this PPP forgiveness. PPP loans, a lot of people received those, and the anticipation is that those will be forgiven for the most part. The ones over $2 million are going to have to provide some documentation as far as that they needed that, but for the most part, everyone's going to get those forgiven. The question is, what's going to happen with those expenses that you use to justify that? And right now, the IRS is saying those expenses are not deductible. Now, the income is not taxable, so it's kind of a wash, but still it's something that people aren't necessarily expecting, to not be able to deduct those expenses. I think Congress is saying they're going to look at that, and we need to know about that before we file people's tax returns. And the hope is that we will get some guidance from Congress. And there's been the AICPA has requested that Congress say that those expenses are still deductible. So I think that's everyone's hope, but we don't know that. And right now we have to treat them as non-deductible because that's the law. So that's kind of in the offing as far as year-end planning. You know, if you're planning and you need to do worst case, you assume those are not deductible. Documentation, this is just a general thing. The more records you have, the better off you're going to be. We're seeing some IRS detail audits where they're coming in to basically audit everything for people to kind of work on their statistics for averages. But in that case, if you're a taxpayer that's subject to that, you're required to produce a lot of documentation. You're not even allowed to take certain deductions without documentation. Travel, entertainment, well, entertainment's not deductible at all, but meals, mileage, charitable contributions, a lot of those, you're not even allowed to take the deduction if you don't have the documentation. So that's really important as usual. Another new thing this year, everybody is familiar with 1099s. We have to all send our 1099s to all of the vendors. There's a new one. It's actually it's coming back. It was formed a long time ago, 1099 NEC for non-employee compensation. So used to pretty much all your stuff, you paid rent, you paid attorneys, you paid vendors, that all went on the 1099, the miscellaneous. Now there's a new one, 1099 NEC, for all your non-employee compensation. Rents will still go on 1099 miscellaneous. So it's going to be a little bit more work because you're going to basically have to do 2 sets probably. People are going to, for the most part, do both of those, 1099 miscellaneous as well as 1099 NEC. And of course, we're all geared up to do that. And QuickBooks will be geared up to do that too. It's just one more new thing, a little complication. One good thing that a lot of people may have started hearing about is even if you don't itemize your deductions, you're going to get $300 of charitable contribution. So something to think about for the end of the year. Go ahead and make those charitable contributions if you want to, because you'll get some benefit from that up to $300, even if you don't itemize, which very few people are itemizing now because the standard deduction's up to $24,000 for married filing jointly. But that's a benefit then for people that don't itemize, and encouraging people to do some contributions toward COVID relief for the community. So that's a good thing. Another coronavirus thing is that you are not required to take your required minimum distribution. People are probably pretty familiar with that, but that can be a tax saving thing for a few people. Another odd thing that came out late in the year was that you were allowed to defer Social Security and Medicare payments in. I don't know if very many employers did that. Not very many of our clients took advantage of that because you have to repay that in the first quarter of 2021. It was a little complicated, but you might want to look at that and look at the rules. We're happy to chat with anybody about the rules about that and how that's going to work. But I believe that it's going to affect some of our clients because the federal government employees were required to participate in that. But for the most part, I believe private employers did not do that too much. But it's out there if people are interested in that. The last thing I wanted to mention was not a new rule either, but something that's this time of year is business gifts. We like to give things to our clients, to our vendors, but the IRS rule is that can only be worth $25. That number has not been updated in a long time, but anything over $25 is not deductible. Now, you're free to give as much as you want to your vendors, et cetera, but it's not deductible if it's over $25. So just something to keep in mind as you're buying those poinsettias and boxes of pears and whatever else you're giving to your clients and vendors. So that's pretty much all I had. I think Kaylee has sent out our contact information, so feel free to email us anytime, me or Deborah or Melanie, and we're happy to respond to any questions that you have about year-end planning or anything for next year. So thanks for inviting us. We're happy to be here.